All right. Welcome to the Prospect Podcast. I'm here, Coach Schumann. Welcome to our New Year's Day edition. Um, if you're getting ready for all the bowl games, like you should enjoy this show first.
We'll lead you into it.
Enjoy the show first. To my left, I have Coach DePascal, as always, on the pod, and we have our fantastic guest today. Best way I could summarize Coach Norton is the guy's a coach. He coaches at the high school level. He's a head coach at the high school level. He's an assistant coach at the sport at the high school level. Coaches youth sports with his son's teams and in club basketball and everything. So you got a guy who's been a head coach for 13 years, but also has a connection to the youth program as well. And so both ends of a. So we wanted to bring him on and really kind of talk from that angle. And so we're excited to talk to him. We're glad that he could come in today and talk with us on New Year's Day. I'm sure you're just relaxing and not doing that much today. Anyway, so we'll steal a little bit of your time. So it's great to have you on, Coach.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I could sit down and talk shop any day. D-Rock knows that. Yeah, I feel lucky to be the first guest of 2026. This is pretty cool. Yeah, I love sports. Sports has been my life for as long as I can remember. I'm the oldest of four, so I was kind of spoiled in that way that Dad just kind of brought me around sports at a young age. And, Derek was talking about before, I was very lucky to play three sports my whole life. And, you guys know growing up, that was just kind of a norm. If you didn't play three sports, it was like, what are you doing? So, yeah, I was blessed to play football, basketball, lacrosse. Got to play at the high school level at Boonton. It was pretty cool. Like, my dad, my uncles, everybody went there. So, yeah, it was great. I had some success at the high school level. Went to play lacrosse at Muhlenberg. I was a 4-year starter there. And then summer going into my senior year, Derek knows this name, Matt Rathbun, was an absolute stud for us at Boonton. I went to Muhlenberg as well to play football. And I had an amazing career. He was a grade below me. And, we were just talking in the summer, and he's like, listen, we're graduating some slot receivers and stuff. And, you want to play? And I'm like, dude, I'm only like 150 pounds, man. Like, this is just way different than Group 1 high school football. He's like, all right, well, let's work out for the summer. I'm like, all right, cool. And mind you, this guy was 220, yoked out of his mind.
Monster.
Oh, my God, an absolute freak. He came in as a safety at like maybe 190. End up being the middle linebacker, All-American for them. So I worked out with him for the summer and took a shot. I don't think my lacrosse coach was too happy about it, but I'm like,
He was not.
talking with my dad about it, and I'm like, I'm never going to strap it up ever again. I got nothing to lose, nothing at all. And I thought the coolest thing was just getting back into like camp and all that. And obviously that's a way different experience from high school to college, but I enjoyed like sitting through film and through those meetings and just being around the guys. And it was a great experience, and I was blessed. And Matty Rathman got me a little bigger. I think I got up to like 175. And it was good. I mean, I got to play. I got some time at slot. Got to play in some big games. And, we had a really good year that year, which I was just lucky to be a part of. I got to return some punts and kicks. It was just an amazing experience, something I'll never, ever regret. And then I knew as soon as I graduated, I was like, I always wanted to be a teacher. I work with special needs students. I've been teaching for 17 years now. I teach kindergarten special ed. But I knew teaching was going to give me that avenue to coaching as well. So, it went hand in hand, and I started coaching right away. And I remember talking to D-Rock back in the early days, and it was just the world of coaching was just so new and so different. And I'm like, I'm like Derek. I'm a very fiery player and a fiery guy. And you had to kind of change your outlook and the way you were coaching to go from a player. And I think I learned a lot early on. I was pretty blessed to work with some good people early on too. I latched on to Coach Devonta pretty early. I coached lax with him early on in like 2010 to like 2013. And then the Boonton job opened, and it was like, that was the end goal. I knew it was going to be the dream job, but I didn't want to leave Rick. I had a good thing going. I was an offensive coordinator. I was only like in my early 20s. And he's like, you're an idiot if you don't go take over at your alma mater, man. Like, you're going to get married and have kids one day. And he painted this picture, and he was right. I'm very, very blessed. I've been here for 13 years. Still live in town. My kids go to school in town. They're all going to go to Boonton. So, yeah, been coaching Lax there for 13 years. Latched back onto Rick again for football. I was with him for a couple of years with Ian Schwindel and those guys. And I had time of my life, like just getting back into football. I learned so much. You think you know everything as a football player. My God, like it just it was a whole new world learning football as a coach. And Rick taught me a lot about being a head coach, and then working with a guy like Ian. I thought I knew football until I started hanging out with that guy. I mean, he's a wizard, and just really opened my eyes to so much of just the X's and O's and the preparation, what goes into the weekly plan and all that. And then my brother calls me up and he's like, he was with Gallagher forever at Boonton. And again, he's learning under one of the best in the state. And, old man Gallagher was with them too for some time. So he had just a great education there. And he ended up applying for the HPACon job. And I said, that's it. I'm diving in head first. Let's go. So I went up there with him. We coached there for a few years. And those are just some amazing people out there in HPACon. Like, they just love football. Like, you think of like Friday nights, you watch Friday Night Lights and all those movies and stuff. And like the town just shuts down and goes to Friday night football games in HPACon.
That's what it is.
And you could be 0 whatever or undefeated, and it didn't matter. People were just there enjoying the game. And that was great. And then Gallagher reached out and, he took over at Knowles. And at this point, I'm coaching youth football, youth basketball, youth lacrosse in my town. And I'm helping run all the programs. I got my kids in it. And, my end goal is to eventually coach, all that at Boonton. And then when that came open, I told my brother, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what we have talked about for years. And it took him some convincing, but I mean, I know he wanted it. I know it was in his mind. But that was his first coaching experience at a PACON as a head coach, and he had a really good experience, and he loved those guys. But it just being back at your alma mater and then being on staff with him and the guys we got, it's just unbelievable. And then we run the youth camps, and my kids are going to it, and every year we play our first home game for our youth game at Boonton High School, and so it's just it's everything has fallen into place pretty well, and I'm very blessed. I have zero complaints about my path as a player and a coach, and I consider myself pretty spoiled with just the experiences and the opportunities I've got. So here I am.
How do you manage all that? That's a lot. So like,
you want the honest truth?
Football, high school, and then all of a sudden go coach your sons in football, and
I would say the years at HPACon were the most testing, because I teach till about 3:00 in Boonton, and I have to hit Route 80 before like 3:30 to get out there. And I would run out there. I'd be a little late for practice. I'd die, I guess the good thing is I can unwind a little bit. So I drive out there, unwind, get my head right. I'm getting changed at traffic lights and stuff like that. And I'm hopping on the field with my gear, and I'm coaching. And then all of a sudden, like 5:45 hits. I look at my brother, I give him a little head nod. He's like, all right, go ahead, go. He knows I got to go coach my son's team, race down Route 80, get there for practice. So those were some trying years. But then once he took over at Boonton, I'm spoiled because everything's in such a tight space. I don't have to drive any farther than like 10 minutes.
Right.
But the real reason this works is, and it sounds cliche, is my wife, dude. She is a rock star.
She's a stud, bro.
Oh my God, she's a rock star. She's one of 4 girls, never played a sport a day in her life. Old school Italian family, very close knit.
Yep.
When we first started dating, she was coming to watch me play like men's league lacrosse games. And she's like, aren't you done playing? Like, why are you still doing this? I'm like, because first off, I can, like, I'm still young enough to keep doing it, and the competitive fire is there. But that's when she really kind of realized like how passionate I was about sports. And she supported me all through before we had kids. And then when we had kids and her kids, started playing sports, she's a full-on sports mom, dude. She runs our youth program. She's the treasurer / vice president of our football program. I mean, she's done it for 2 years now and is absolutely killing it. I mean, she is the mom on the sidelines that's screaming for every kid. You hear her in every video. She films my youth basketball games for me. She picks up other kids when they need rides. Like this works because she allows me to do all this and can hold down the fort at home. So yeah, it sounds cliche, but you need that ride or die with you to be able to do all this stuff. And she's
No
the one
doubt.
for sure. So
That's awesome. That is fantastic, and that definitely is critical in order to be able to do all those different things.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's a difficult scenario. Talk about so coaching high school and coaching high school athletes, and this is why I'm glad Derek brought you on, because this is always like, to me, in today's landscape of sports, coaching high school athletes and coaching youth athletes, and the level of that transition from youth to high school has changed a lot. I'm not talking about, like, obviously, your kids are probably going to go, are going to go to Boonton, but you probably have kids that you coach that are probably going to go to Boonton. Maybe some kids that may not, whatever. But their expectations of what they're trying to do has changed tremendously at the youth level, and what they're hoping for from high school. Talk about some of the stuff that, like, because there's probably very few people better to talk to about it than you. What you're seeing, some of the things that you know are awesome, some of the things that are not awesome.
So I'll start at the top, like with high school. So to your point, exactly. High school landscape of sports has changed so much, good and bad.
Right.
I think social media has helped and hurt high school athletes. Like, I think it's. I love the way they're able to connect with one another. I love the way they're able to get their name out there. Like, I'm all for all that stuff. My brother and I have hired one of our old buddies to run a lot of our social media stuff, and it's great. I mean, the kids love it. And I would say that the challenge, I'll start with just being at a school like Boonton and being a small group one, and I'm sure everybody deals with it at small group ones, is just getting kids to play multiple sports. And the moment they have some success at a young age in one sport, they feel they have to dive all in that sport, not realizing you play at least one more sport, you're just not only well-rounded, but like you're just using different parts of your body. You're interacting with different players. You're, getting coached by another coach. Like we're all biased here because we're multi-sport athletes, but I would say that's the biggest challenge. The one good thing for me, selfishly, with my brother being on and him running the weight room, is I've been able to get my lax guys in the weight room with him in the off season. Like a lot, and I'm not saying that spring coaches have it the toughest, but I mean, I think it's tough in the spring when you're getting close to graduation and prom and all this stuff. And sometimes kids are burnt out from fall and winter, that they're just like, yeah, I'm going to hang out in the spring, coach, or I'm going to work out for football for next year. And I'm like, well, actually, my brother can run the weight room. I can move my practices later, and you could still lift and come to practice, So, like, I think that's made it a little bit better. But it's tough. And like you said, the expectations the kids get once they see other athletes on social media, whether they grew up with them and they play at private schools or whether they just know them from other club sports. And it's just, it's tough to navigate. It really is. And I feel like I've gotten better at being able to communicate with the kids and understand what their wants and needs are. I think early on I was very stubborn about just like, frustrated with the way kids were portraying what they want out of their high school experience. And then I just think as the years went, I think COVID helped, to be honest. I've become a little more aware of what some of these teenagers have to go through today. And I feel it is tougher. I'm not gonna lie. I feel it is tougher compared to when we grew up as far as the expectations. I think we put our own expectations.
I remember COVID being a big time for you, especially because it hit in your prime season of lacrosse, right? It hit that spring, and you were dealing with a lot, and especially at a place, like a group one like Boonton. And look, Dave and I can attest to it, right? Like me being from Butler, Dave being from Saddlebrook, like we're group one guys, right? And we were multi-sport guys. And just the dynamics of some of the things that went into COVID and how things were handled, especially at a smaller school level where, you know what I mean? Like it was just different in terms of how those things went about. You really got a glimpse into some of your players off the field, like on a whole different level of what they could and couldn't do. I mean, shit, we dealt with it when we were at, where we were. And the school 2 miles up the road, every one of those kids was still able to work out because they had a full-blown gym in their basement. And our guys, I mean, we couldn't even get them to go to the park to work out to get, you know what I mean? It was like one of those types of things. So you really kind of got a glimpse into it, which definitely changed, I think, all coaches, but you on a totally different level because it was your prime season. And to see those guys, what the struggles they had to do to just do the bare minimum, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do, again, like I said, I think there are pros and cons as to what happened since COVID. And I think the kids have become more self-aware, which is good, but it's just so competitive. And then on the flip side, a couple of my buddies, even family members, have come watch me coach youth and high school. And they're like, how have you calmed down in high school and are an absolute nut job in youth?
Dude.
Like,
I get the same thing.
One of my buddies who does a lot of our social media stuff, he comes and he did a couple of my son's game. And he's like, you are a maniac during the youth games compared to your high school games. And what I tell him is the honest truth is that I'm nowhere near giving up on high school sports. It's not even that. I just think I'm more self-aware of what's gone on. Like you said, just about the landscape of high school sports. But like now that I have a hand in these young kids and I can follow them all the way up, I'm going to dive all in head first and be an absolute nut job and put these expectations and the parents can see what my expectations are. And that way, then when they get older and they get to high school and it's on them, at least I've shown them the way, or at least I think I've shown them the way. And then from there, it's up to them what they want to do. But I won't have any regret saying that, you know what, I wasn't there on the ground floor working with these kids and trying to show them the way, where sometimes when you get them at the high school level, you didn't have that hand when they're in the youth level. You're kind of trying to break bad habits and stuff like that. And so at least I know if I coach these kids all the way through and then they come play for me in high school and they're not successful, it's on me. I could look in the mirror and say, that's fully on me. They've developed bad habits because I've allowed it since they were in third grade. So yeah, that's been my motivation, to be honest.
Great, really, really great point. It's I felt that way as well. Like, having coached high school and seeing when things were not when they didn't learn the things they should have learned, even if they played their sport all the way since they were young. And you're like, how could this be their, and I'm not talking about a kid who's not a good athlete. I'm just talking about a kid who probably is a pretty good athlete and has all these it's not even issues, it's just like bad habits, right?
Bad habits, absolutely.
It's bad habits. It's like, and that's one of the things that it's funny because parents kind of look at me sometimes the same way. They're like, why is it so important? I'm like, because you know what? Like, some high school coach is going to get these kids, okay?
Yeah.
Right? And that high school coach is either going to be like, those youth coaches did nothing with you, or they're going to be like, these kids are prepared for what's expected of them at high school, right? And I think that's that's really important. And I think a lot of times too now, because you see it all over social media, it's even more important that they get influencers that are trying to teach them the right way to do things.
Yeah.
Because there's so much video that they can watch and that they'll think it's cool.
So much.
They think it's cool, right? They think that's cool. So they'll do what they think is cool, and they'll not realize, because they're kids, that that's a bad habit, or that's something that if you continue, like I say this to my son, I'm like, you act like that to a high school, you do that body language to a high school coach, like, he's not playing you. Like,
you're done. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, like you don't realize that, right? So
you can do it to dad, right? You can get away with it with dad, but no.
Yeah, and those are habits they have to learn, and I try to teach that to all the kids. Like, it's like, doing that is not like, you're going to get to high school and that's not going to be acceptable. And then when parents push back and they think like, well, they're kids. I'm like, well, you know what? Like, one of the things that I thought always helped me be successful as an athlete, that my father was a teacher and coach, so I had no way to avoid it. But like,
still coaching at 80-something years old, by the way.
God bless him, man, like, and it wasn't that like it was a different time period, so it wasn't that, like, a lot of stuff you were working out on your own back then, but it wasn't that. It was more like that's not how you act. Like it's not
correct.
That's acceptable. Like I was a wrestler when I was young, and I was a great wrestler, and I would win 98% of my matches, but if I lost, forget it. Like it was like I acted like an asshole.
End of the world, yeah. Oh yeah.
And he would grab me, pull me out of there, and he'd be sitting me down. Like, I don't even know what he was saying, but it was just a riot act. You know what I mean? So like, you're not acting like that, blah, blah, blah. So, and obviously I don't, I was his son, so he could do that. But with the kids, it's good for them to learn good habits, I think. Yeah. And I think that one of the disconnects between high school and youth is there's not as many guys like yourself coming down and doing both, and that coach at high school and then coach. And you could do that more in a smaller town, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when you're own kids, that's what makes it tough.
I think it's great because there's continuity, right? And your son's friends know what to expect. So whether they play for you or they play for your brother, you play for somebody else in another sport, they kind of have understood the way that it's expected. And I think it's good. And when people think that it's like my pet peeve of all pet peeves coaching youth sports is when someone says to me, they're only this.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, when do standards come in? Tell me the age, please.
I don't disagree. I still get it.
All right, I understand when they're 6.
Right.
I'm saying as they progress, they should progress their standards, right?
Yeah.
9, 10 should be better than 9. 11 should be better than 10, right? And so tell me, like, my belief is you should continue to increase the standards as they get older. Obviously, when they're 6, you're not going to expect them to do certain things. It's ridiculous.
But to your point, they still need discipline. They still need to understand there's an expectation when you're at practice. You got to pay. They have expectations in school. It's no different. Like, you put all the pressure on these kids to have expectations to get good grades, and you meet with your student's teacher to find out that they're behaving and doing stuff. Well, that expectation has to still be there on the court, on the field. So, to your point, like, I'm lucky that I'm a teacher, that I can instill those standards. And again, I feel for the dads and the guys that are putting in their time, that are not getting paid to do this stuff. And it's tough. So, like, when I first dove in, I told myself, I was like, I'm going to run these practices and these programs the same way I do my high school teams that I coach for. And I've done it for years. And I don't want to say that's
same thing with Dave.
And I don't want to say that's the biggest reason why we've had success, but it's a huge reason because there's structure and there's expectations and there's rules. And, when the kids first get to football practice, we make sure they stand there and line up their helmets and put their water down. We make sure that the parents are nowhere near the kids so that when they go to get water, it's a quick sip and come back out, not interact with mom and dad. And the parents have completely bought in. And I know that's not always the case. I just think I'm going to come in like a maniac at first and see if it sticks. And I've, knock on wood, have gotten very lucky that my kids' friends' parents have all been cool about it. And when I slack off, or if I'm like having an off day, they're holding me accountable. Like, Coach, what's going on? You feeling okay today? Like, you're a little quiet today, or you didn't make them run because they were doing X, Y, Z. So, like, it's good. It really is. But I did get that the first couple of years where you're like, Coach, they're not going to the NBA. They're not going to the NFL. They're not going. And I'm like, I understand that, but it's going to help them as they get older. It's going to instill that discipline in them. And to be honest too, I think as they go through their young careers, they'll be able to figure out if it's for them or not. Like, if they can't handle going through a full football practice with pads on and following a routine, as they get older, they might realize, I could try something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
absolutely,
if we're not giving them that avenue now, and we're not giving them that expectation now, we're setting them up for failure as they get older, because somebody else is going to do it after me and after you, and they won't be ready for it. So, yeah.
And I think they get much more likely when they learn standards to not blame other people. Like, one of the things in high school that's probably most high school coaches, another pet peeve high school coaches have, when something goes wrong, it's very hard for them today to be accountable, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They have a hard time with the accountability.
Absolutely.
They feel like you're picking on them.
Yep.
you know, like, and a lot of that's external. It's not even parents or the coaches are doing things. It's a lot of it's external and social and outside of where they are. So it's not, you know, it's not even something that in a lot of cases to blame the parents or coaches not holding them accountable. There's a lot of societal things that are saying that that's okay. Right. And I think that learning that is such an important thing, and so they don't go to high school and are always blaming everybody else when something goes wrong. So they can, and really it's not about, to me, it's like figuring out so I can be the best of what I need to be, right? It's, if I blame other people, I'm never going to be my best self because I'm letting myself off the hook. Now, when you're in a game, you know, if someone throws you a pass and the person drops the pass, obviously the person who, if you're the quarterback throwing and the guy who drops it and hits them in the hands, obviously we know the receiver dropped the ball.
We all know it.
We know it's his fault. Okay. We understand that, but the pointing the blame at other people and those kind of things, the more that those kids learn that you're all in it together, the better. Like, my reaction always is like, instead of going, this is the biggest reaction. Right. Instead of doing that, like, all right, hey, next time you'll catch it. Like, go over to him. That's okay. Next time. Right. He knows it's the coach, everybody knows. Going at the same time, you know, everybody's doing it. So he knows it. But the teammates, more than anybody, even more than the coaches, if they learn those habits, they can go over and pick that kid up, because as important it is for the coach to be helped, you know, to point kids in the right direction, when their teammates can help them with that, that makes your team. Derek talks about this all the time. When the kids take ownership and leadership of the team's obviously going to have a really great chance to be successful.
And it's hard to find that. It is. It's hard. It's hard to instill that. You know, like it's either you have it or you don't, or you find those kids that you can latch onto that can help lead the way. But kids they just don't want to like hold each other accountable.
Being a leader nowadays. Look, it's always been hard, but being a leader nowadays is really, really hard, right? Because everybody wants to be liked.
Chill, bro. You're trying too hard. Chill,
everybody wants to be that cool, you know what I mean? Like, look, even keel type of guy. Like, look, we all know how it was, right? Like, you would name your captains like at the banquet for that year, and those guys, you kind of just knew who they were. And you know, look, there was usually a guy who was really loud, and then there was a guy that was kind of like quiet, right? Like, you balanced it out. There were different type of leaders, but I'm telling you, way more so in the last 5-6 years have I seen the leadership abilities and capabilities and just the desire to do it, right? Like, there was nothing bigger than wanting that C on my chest or wanting to be the captain of the team, right? If there is a regret I have in all of my sports career, it's that I never got to be a captain in college, right? And I thought that was like a big letdown for me personally. But these kids, like, it's almost like hey, like, that's okay. Like, I don't need to be the captain. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to. I don't want that smoke because, dude, you 100%. Like, you have to now look. Like, it's just like being a leader or the head coach, or like, there's going to be times when you're not liked because you're going to have to make some hard decisions, or you're going to have to call your boy out when he's not doing what he's supposed to do for the good of the group. And that's just not something that these kids have grown up with, you know, being that. Now, whether it's parenting or, hey, just make sure everybody's included and you don't want to single anybody out. I think it's more of a societal issue as well. You know, that goes along with like
baby Gronk becomes popular, right? Like, you know, like he's a yin yang. Okay, as well as parents are yin yang. I don't want to call it yin yang. Parents are yin yangs.
Well, those parents have now, like, you know, served.
And he goes to
FBU though. You know what I mean? Like,
when he goes to FBU,
everybody's like, "Oh, that's Gronk."
They want to get his autograph. The kids want to get his autograph.
Or you have kids that are like, "Hey, how does
that teach anything?" Right? Like, like, that's society teaching these kids. essentially,
and
right?
you're putting them on a pedestal, or you're putting them in the spotlight of like, maybe they aren't ready for that smoke, and that could be detrimental to them across the board. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're anointing guys before their ability to be anointed. And Mick, and you know, Coach Shu and I talk about this all the time. Like, the hardest evaluation happens from middle school to high school, because those pre-puberty years, or the guy that hits puberty in 6th, 7th grade and dominates middle school, and then you never hear from him again in high school. Like, wait, where is that kid? Oh, he still plays, but he just isn't what it was, right? So that anointing and that, like, putting those guys ahead, like from middle school to high school, like, that's the hardest evaluation process yet. Social media wise, you're seeing, you know, the baseball guys ranking 7-year-olds, right? Basketball, like, you know, the travel world, like, and football starting to cross this big with it. I mean, look, we had Louis and Mick, you remember Louis Aboyan from the ball, right? Like, so he runs Mad Dog, and we talked to him about the whole thing, and it was like, you know, his whole thing was talking like, dude, it took a long time to work into that middle school, younger youth age, and not make it, you know, whatever this is, right? And football's kind of been protected from that. And Dave and I have touched on this a bunch of times too. But now, like, look, like, he just sent me the other, because they play AYF down here, right? Like, you know, I know up north, like your division, it's kind of just like your own little youth league, right? Like what we played in, and there's no affiliation to Pop Warner or AYF or whatever it is. But like, these AYF guys now want to like put a ranking system together, and they want to like start ranking players at like such a young age. And it's like, you know, hey, we're on this all-star team and all this. They're trying to get into that AAU world, or that all-star world of like making everything whatever.
Perfect game from baseball.
That's the baseball, right? And we talked to the guy that created it. Right? Like, we talked to that guy, and he was like, you know, like, we've had him on. I just think the ranking and all that stuff, and how things have, like, everything has meshed together, where, you know, a rec league that's being played for participation and fun is now thrown in with travel leagues, and, you know, stuff that, like, it's all smashed together. But it all comes back to, and like, when we were in school and growing up, right? But like, not everybody played sports either. And that was okay, dude. Now I think parents, they just don't know how to get their kids involved, and everybody plays everything, right? And then
it makes them more competitive too, because there are more good athletes that are
100%.
Because you got, you know, the guy who you know, went and worked construction right out of high school 25 years ago, didn't play sports because he had to go work for his dad or something, right? And now that guy's kid, he might have been a good athlete, but like, he just didn't play. That guy's kid is an athlete, and all of those guys' kids are athletes now. So it's super competitive, and that's that. You know, that is. I'm curious what you know, from because we mentioned the club sport thing, and
you're in that world too. And lacrosse club is whoa.
To me, there's like 3 levels to the whole youth sports thing. There's recreation, right? Whatever's left of recreation, but there's recreation. There's like club sports that are like regional travel, meaning with, you know, town to town. They could be a town team, they could be a club team, but like kind of staying local for the most part. And then there's this like national travel. Okay. And those three levels are very, very different instances. And I think and I'm curious your thoughts on this, so this is why I'm prefacing it. People try to sometimes move to levels that they shouldn't move to.
Absolutely.
Before they're ready to go to that level, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody playing at whatever level they should play at. But if you're a recreation kid and you're really like at that level, and you're trying to play on a national team, and somebody will take your $10,000, and now you're playing in this thing. I don't think that's good for kids' confidence.
It's
right?
not. It's not.
So I would like you to talk about like the different levels, when you think they should, you know, continue to move, like if they want to move up, you know what I mean? Like if they want to take on more. And some of it has to do with time and money, but as well, because national is not just about how good you are. It's also you got to be willing to like.
Can you fork over the 14?
Yeah.
Look, we're seeing 7-on-7
or take
teams
off
now.
weeks of school. Takes
Yep.
off,
Oh yeah.
So talk about that a little bit, because you're in it, right? And you also have a high school perspective, which I think is really valuable. So talk about that.
I'm literally living it right now. I'll give you a quick example. I'll bring up Lou in a second. So my oldest son, he made an all-star team for lacrosse this year where they played at Rutgers, and it was awesome. It's called the Garden State Cup. They brought it back. They had it back when I was in high school, and they now have it at youth all the way up to high school, and it's such a cool experience. And I was contemplating, do I have him try out for it? Do I do it? And I'm like, you know what? I got nothing to lose, but it costs money. So I'm like, all right, I'll dive in. But I said to him, if you're going to do it, you got to dive all in and give it your best. Dad's forking up a couple $100 here. Like, let's do this.
Right.
And he made the team. It was great. We played at Rutgers for 2 days. It was in the summer, right after school ended, and it was awesome. And he played great. He had a great experience. He met some cool kids from other towns. I ended up being an assistant coach for it. I met some cool dads, but like the one dad comes up to me and he was like, man, he's like, your son did a real good job. What national teams do you play for? And I'm like, huh? I'm like, he doesn't play for, I'm like, we start football in 2 weeks, man. Like, I don't what? National.
They look
team.
at you like you're crazy.
I know. And he's just like, oh yeah, we're going to Disney next week and this and that. And we're talking, and I shoot Lou a text. I'm like, Lou, should I be doing something different right now? Like, and I coach club sports. So like that opened my eyes to this whole different world. It was insane. Yeah. And like every kid on that team was on some different national team. And I don't want to say it's cut and dry. Like I don't, yes, your point, like you can fork over this amount of money and go play for any team you want, but I do think there has to be some level of understanding of who your kid is where he's at currently. Yeah. And then the other point I was going to make is I do coach for a club and I love it. The director was my head coach in high school. At the end of the day, I'm a teacher. I don't make money in the summer. So that's a good part of my summer income. My kids get to play, I get to coach them, and it's great. The cool thing I like is they play with kids from different towns, and then when they play during the season, they see those kids and they're like, "What's up, man? What's going on?" They take pictures cool. after it. That part is awesome. But the part that is tough is when your team that your kid plays for or that you're coaching has a little bit of success. Everybody always wants to know what else is out there, and a part of me can't blame them because they just saw their son have some success. Hey, if they could do it here on this team, maybe they could do it on another team. And for some, it's worked. For some, they've called me up or called our director up and be like, man, the grass isn't greener. Like this is crazy. We went to a, quote unquote, maybe bigger club, but he got less playing time. So I go back to that whole group one thing, like go stand out in a smaller program where you're going to do well, where a coach is going to see you as opposed to playing on this bigger one. You may not get the time. Now, yes, I do agree when you play with kids that are at a higher level, it does raise your game, or it could break your confidence. So it really depends on the kid. So I'm struggling with it right now. I'm not going to lie. My oldest, he loves sports. I have not asked him that question. I don't want to ask him that question. Like, what's your favorite? What do you want dad to dive into more? And like, he'll say basketball right now because he's playing. He'll say lacrosse in the spring when he's playing.
Which is a great answer.
Football, and it is, and I love it. And I tell myself, like, am I doing enough as his dad? Am I doing enough as his coach? And then I talk myself out of it. And I'm like, he's playing 3 sports. He's having the time of his life. He doesn't complain. He's meeting new people. He's having these great experiences. So I'm okay with it. But I know there's going to come a time where I have to make a decision. And I'm like, I don't want to get to that point. But yeah, I think what makes it tough is your eyes get so big as a parent, probably with a lot of people, and they see these other things going on and these other things on social media and these other clubs. And then once that national comes in, it's just like, wait, what? We get to go travel and play here. And, it makes it tough. And it's either going to raise a kid's level, or like you said, it's going to shoot their confidence where they're like, well, I don't belong on this level. My parents have spent all this money to go to across the country for me to get my butt whooped. And I don't want to do this anymore, Mom, or I'm not ready for this, Dad, and
that's
it makes it tough.
Point you bring. I don't want to interrupt you. That's
you're good.
Point, because to me, the biggest thing I'm always evaluating is my son's confidence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is this thing he's doing right now helping him to get stronger and potentially get more confident? Is he learning from it, or is this making it worse? Like, is so
For sure.
And like so, and I ask him. He plays three main sports, but he does football, basketball, baseball, but he does track also in the spring, and then we play lacrosse in the summer. There's a CBA has this like summer league, and that's all he plays in is that rec. They started this year.
It's awesome.
He just wants to play
Remember,
that.
it's CBA too.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like,
so he can play lacrosse, but like he's not like an all. Like it's like a hot. I don't know. All the club kids are in it, but I guess it's supposed to be a rec league. But like, but he likes it, right? He enjoys it. That's all he wants to do. Track. All he wants to do is in track season. But he said his number one's football, his number two is basketball, his number three baseball. Yeah. So we said number three was baseball. Like he was playing club baseball, but like I think that like it's hard to play all these things club, right? So football, he started to have he was having some. It was in football season. He was having some like problems with his feet, and he just turned like after the first baseball game and was just like, I don't want to do this. I said, you're not doing it. I said, that's it. You're not doing it. So I said, you know what? It's number three. If it changes, if it comes number one, we could go back to club. Yeah, we'll play Little League, and you'll play Little League. And if that changes, we could always go back to club, right? It's no big deal. So my thing is like, okay, football, basketball. So hey, listen, if those are 1 and 2. Like my thing is like, okay, those are 1 and 2. I don't know which one you're gonna like more at some point, but this is 1 right now. This is 2 right now. We'll go all in on those. Yep. But the big thing is you got to do your strength conditioning speed work, right? Yep. Because if you change what you like. So let's say we started doing, we're doing football skills or basketball skills, and tomorrow you decide you wanted to be a lacrosse player. If you're doing your base strength and speed conditioning, make sure you're in shape and all that kind of stuff, you could go to lacrosse, pick that stuff up, not have a huge problem. We could always switch. Yep. But if you're only doing your skill, right, and you know what I'm saying? You're diving in all on skill, but you don't have any like well-rounded strength, speed, background, and it's basic stuff. But like you have that base, it's going to be a lot harder to then all of a sudden now you don't have the athletic ability, and you're going to go and learn the skill. And obviously, right. I know there's a certain amount of natural athleticism.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to have, but I think that those things are important, and So like you're constantly in the battle. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, okay, I'm diving in here. And the reason we started doing baseball club because we got asked to do it for 2 years and we didn't do it. And then we were like, oh my God, are we like falling behind?
Right.
So we went and did it.
Short?
Yeah. So we went and did it. And like for a time he did enjoy it. And then it was like, you know what? I could see it. It was just like, hey, this is, how are you doing basketball shooting in the same season that you're doing football, playing football, and now you got baseball in the mix? Like, that's just too much. You know what I mean? It's too much already as it is.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Even adding basketball shooting just to make sure you keep your basketball skills. You know what I'm saying?
Shot ready.
But that's your point. That's exactly the point. The tough part about all of it is if they are a good athlete, the kids that go all in on one sport, whatever that sport is, do have a skill advantage, in my opinion, because they're just doing that skill all the time, not athletically. And I would love for you to talk about this because when I transition middle school, like Derek talked about the high school, the athleticism becomes a really big part of it, like developing that base. And my father said this to me the other day because we were talking about this. And he said, you know what your advantage was when you transitioned from middle school to high school? I said, no, what was my advantage? Your advantage was that you worked out. You lifted, you ran. That was your advantage. So
you had that foundation.
You had that foundation. So when you went to high school and now you were really went from being a 3-sport kid to 4-sport kid to doing football and track in high school.
Yep.
And when I transitioned to like really going all in football and no longer was doing like 4 sports, the fact that I was doing that, I mean, I went right into high school and was, playing all the time as a freshman on varsity, right? Yep. But it was because I had that foundation. It had nothing to do with the other skills that I had from other sports. It had to do with the foundation. Talk about what you're seeing, like, and you're thinking about when you go from that youth to middle school to high school.
Yeah, I think I wanted to make one quick point. When we were talking about before is like where I'm struggling as the dad and the coach is like the coach in me wants all my son's teams that I coach to like play in certain. So like my basketball team right now, I already was talking to the dad. I was like, you know what, maybe like in the spring, we'll find one weekend we do like a tournament at Hoop Heaven or something. It's just another way to keep the kids together and play a little basketball. And then in the summer, we'll do some, flag football. It's a way to get them together. So like I, as a small group 1 coach, want to be selfish and keep the kids together and not have them go play all these separate club teams because it's like, right, I'm going to coach them one day. I want to be selfish. Let's keep them together. But then my dad hat is like, am I not doing enough? Like when I was at that All-Star game, am I not giving him enough? Yeah. Am I not giving him
those opportunities to go play?
Yeah. Because the reality is that he's going to be 5'7", 150 pounds like his dad. So like, he's going to have other advantages. Like you said, coach, about those kids that play all year round, they're better skilled, maybe not athletically. So I battle with it. After it was 2 years ago, we won our travel championship for basketball. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to get my oldest Cam in AAU. We did it for a summer and it opened my eyes. It was a cool experience, but oh my gosh, like he's playing against kids that play all year round. And I said, you know what, why don't I find a guy to work on his dribbling and his jump shot? And I found a guy who was recommended, and my goodness, his game has improved so much. And I don't think it would have improved if he stayed with AAU. And it wouldn't have improved. And I would have been in the hole like $300-400,
Listen, we talk about the monetary investment that parents put into it and what they feel is necessary, right? And you never want to see somebody waste their money, but with the amount of social media trainers that are out there now, like there are so many guys that are just YouTubing the session before they get there or in their car as they're there, right? But look, I'm not bagging on trainers. There's a lot of really good ones out there too, but and there's a market for it, but it has to be specific. And I think a lot of times, parents just sitting in the stands when they're talking amongst themselves and, oh, well, little Billy goes and sees this person on this day. And then, he's at this thing on that day. And look, Greg Olson just said it on his podcast because he struggles with it as well for his kids, right? I mean, he's in it too, right? Because he's got a 7th grader and an 8th grader and, at what point, like, you got to understand, like, look, we go from football to basketball to baseball and we just roll through this. Whereas, now you get to baseball season or basketball, you get to these seasons and there is a kid that's been in the cage every day, 5 days a week, where he's played so many travel baseball games because he's doing baseball year round. Whereas you're hitting the pause button on baseball and you might be getting to the cage or getting a couple swings in the fall, but you're focused on football. Right. Yep. And, look, I'm going to be in it in a couple years when my son obviously gets to that level and makes that choice of whatever, God bless me, like, holy hell. But I mean, it's also like, I understand it, but for me, like, it was always a little different when someone said to you, like, hey man, you're an athlete. Like you play multiple sports. And, I guess the focus on one sport when we were growing up, like, I think for us comes from a different world because look, we went to small schools and as a group 1 player, like you were expected to play 3 sports. And if you didn't, like that basketball team was going to struggle because you didn't, right? Absolutely. Like the baseball team was going to struggle because you didn't play baseball, but it was a fight from 6th grade on with my old man. Like,
right there. That's a great point. When I was a kid,
think about it. You didn't wrestle in high school, Dave, and they were very good.
Me and this other kid were the 2 best wrestlers. We'd been in states like every year. He won states. I was like 2nd or 3rd. We were different weight classes. He was at like a heavyweight. I was the weight right below heavyweight. And when we did not wrestle in high, neither of us wrestled in high school. I think we played football and track. Also,
the whole thing.
he's like a javelin thrower. And when we didn't, the whole group basically didn't wrestle.
Yeah, they're like, what are we doing? We have no shot.
Very average. They were average because they had to go and grab other kids. And all of us had wrestled. Like, my brother didn't wrestle because of that in high school. My brother was a great wrestler, and he was a year behind me. And like some of his friends didn't wrestle. And if they wanted to wrestle, they went to parochial schools instead of going to Saddlebrook because they knew that, like, all the
if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to a different program.
No, it does affect it, right? And so that's you go on, but you're 100% right. It does affect it when the kids make a choice, especially in a small school. Big school's different, like where I live now. Like
you can kind of with that in Middletown, like, it's probably Mickey. It's probably like it's almost like Wayne Hill, Wayne Valley type thing. Mid North, Mid South.
He doesn't do it. You get another kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, we don't have that living.
Right. Like, even for us at Butler, I mean, Mick and I used to talk about this all the time. Like, man, if you guys had lacrosse, like, it would be a different world, dude. And like, it was always like, well, that battle, there's no feeder to do it. But if you did it, like, it would take away from the track team or the baseball team. Like, and numbers wise, like, you're talking 400 kids in a school, maybe that takes away from it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that adds a lot to it. Now, obviously, where you go to it, but I mean, look at some of the parochial schools too. Like, there's not many multi-sport athletes at the parochials. You know what I'm saying?
So sad.
And
they can't.
They can't.
100%. The amount of time.
How are you going to be a great football player who was a great basketball player when you're younger? You decided to go play football, and now you got to go compete at Don Bosco with 5 Division I basketball players.
Think about how crazy
you and they're at ABCD camp, and they're, you know what I mean. Like,
think about how crazy that world is that we're living in. So, like, me being at a small school, I get 8th grade parents that come up to me and it's like, oh, he's been playing for club since he was in 2nd grade, right? And he'll come play for me, but I might have a kid who plays football for me that is better athletically, probably not as better a lacrosse player, but sometimes it works itself out that football player ends up maybe taking a spot of the lacrosse player because he's just tougher. He's more well-rounded. He's more winded. He can do things over a whole season. Yeah. And it doesn't happen all the time.
Or he knows what it's like to play against higher competition,
yeah,
or what it's like to be the role guy, right? Or to come off the bench, or whatever that is. I think that's where the other sports, and look, I'll stand on this pedestal forever, right? Like, you might be the best player in football, but when you go to basketball, you're the 6th man coming off the bench. And that mental fortitude that it takes to do that, or that off the field type of self-awareness, or learning to play that role, like, I think, to me, that creates more growth where you get a better player, which adds to the team, which now increases your winning ability. Like, to me, I'll take that every single day. Not to mention, like, being an assistant coach in high school for football, the first thing college coaches ask about an athlete that they're recruiting is, well, what other sports do they play? And if you're that,
some want to come watch them play that other sport.
Yeah.
I've had 2 or 3 guys when I was at Mount Olive that got full ride Power 4 offers off of their basketball game. Right. Yep. And we're talking, guy came to the basketball and offered him on the spot based off of nothing he did football wise. It was that, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of that. And look, for you,
the positive is of club, from a defense standpoint of it, if you're like, let's say you were like a great football player, and you have to train year round, and you're all in, you're going to these camps in the spring, and you could not commit to, let's say, playing lacrosse, but you could go play club, and if you end up being good enough, you could kind of backdoor into it, like going to the club, all the different club tournaments.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
just different opportunities.
Now the lacrosse coach will hate you for it, but
of course,
coach will hate you for it. But you could. I mean, that's one of the things that, like. So that's why I'm always like.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I go back and forth with it. You know what I mean? Like, there's pros and cons.
100%.
Like, for every pro. That's why I hate when I see these. Like, that's why I agree. Olsen does a great job of this.
Yeah,
because he evaluates. He understands the world that he grew up in is different than the world that it is now, and
absolutely.
because when I see like on TikTok, there's some of these people that are like, youth sports for the kids is like, and if you're pushing your kid and in 7th grade, 90, whatever it is, 60% of them drop off. And I'm like, the reason why people drop off in middle school is not because they are not want to play, because there starts to become cuts at different sports.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're not going to track the kid who's going to play club sport and is no longer in the high school sport, right? You're shifting tracking goes from kids getting the numbers for kids in youth to tracking the kids playing their high school sport. They don't track who's playing club once kids go on to high school. So that number, yes, there is a drop off, but part of it is they might realize I'm not that good at this sport. I'm going to play this. Or I'm not that good at sports, period, and I'm going to be a great student because that's what I need to focus on. And it's not a negative knock on youth sports.
No.
It's what happens. Like so are there people that get burnt out? Yes, absolutely. But it's not just that simple. There's a lot more going on when you go. If you're a basketball player and you try out for the middle school basketball team at your school and you don't make the team 2 years in a row, more than likely you're stepping out of basketball because your mind, unless you grow 7 inches, you're not gonna play basketball in high school. So that would count as a person that dropped out. But the truth is, the basketball coach makes cuts, so it is what it is. It has nothing to do with
just the reality
whether you wanted to play basketball. So that part like drives me nuts. And we as youth coaches, by the way, we deal with, and high school coaches, you deal with this because parents will watch some of these things and then say, "Why are you pushing my kid? I don't want him to get burnt out or whatever." And it's like, no. They're not even pushing at 50% of their capacity when I'm pushing them. So
well, and that's like the saddest part of it is that question that parents would ask you, whether at the youth or the high school level, what else can my kid be doing? My easy answer was like, just go play one other sport. It just makes them a little more well-rounded, right? That was your easy answer. Now it's getting hard to answer it that way because, like, your point is that they see this other kid that devoted himself to one sport and now he's playing at a Division I school and he's doing X, Y, Z. And I'm like, how do you tell somebody, well, that worked for him. It may not work for you. That worked for her. It may not work. Like that is the hardest part is that
that's tough.
I try to be politically correct and say, just stay well-rounded, keep playing, stay involved, but then, a perfect example is Derek Zammit from DePaul. So he's I know the family very well. He's a Lincoln Park
Boonton kid.
Yeah, he's a Lincoln Park kid, grew up here.
Played there, played youth ball there.
Oh, yeah, yep. But I tell everybody that ever asks or talks about Derek is that he's a rare kid. He's a rare kid to the point of that he made a decision. He went to a private school. Some things worked out, and he took it and ran with it. Now, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have stopped playing other sports too, because if you want to be successful at that level, you got to dive in, and he did. And look, he's going to – so, like, he's the success story for our small town, but, like, I have to ground people to be like, he worked at it. He got to that point. He got an advantage. I mean, he got an opportunity that he took full advantage of. So credit to him. But I said, you can't just sit here and say that, oh, I'm going to dive all in on basketball, dive on lacrosse, and then I'll be that next kid, because you don't want to. And again, it's like hindsight. It worked out for him, so he can sit here and probably say that he made those decisions and it worked. But little Johnny might try that and it doesn't work for him, and then you regret not playing other sports. So it really all depends on the kid and the situation. And I am starting to struggle with how to communicate with people, telling them what is right or wrong, because I could just say what worked for me. I could say what worked for the kids I've coached over the years. I could say
that's the
what
same
worked.
way.
It's just you just try to give them
great point. Look, and you don't want to give them the wrong feedback.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I get that. But that, literally, that's how I address it, and that's how I answer it. Right. It's like, look, I can tell you what I've seen. I can tell you what's worked. I can tell you what I did. I can tell you all this. But at the end of it, there's no textbook on how to do this or what to do. It comes down to the individual. It comes down to situational. And only thing we could do is like give you the masses of like what we've seen, what it's been, what it is. And the toughest part about this, especially when it comes to like, the recruiting aspect or getting into a school or this or that, is you might do everything asked of you and held up your end of the bargain and whatnot, and it still doesn't work out.
Right.
And that's but because of
the way that you thought it may work,
and that's what I was getting, because of what you're seeing, right? Because of because we're in this comparison world, and what we see on social media, that is the smallest percentage. Everybody just thinks that's what it should be, right? Like, so Alabama just comes and offers me, or I just go to Oregon. Like, there's a whole,
I'll give a great example. I had a conversation. So I Lenny Dandridge, who played with me at UConn. His son plays at Johns Hopkins. Okay, his son was it was a running back at Del Barton. Was a stud there, but he was a younger kid, so he could have had him reclass when he was like in 7th or 8th grade, and he still would have been like graduating just being like 18. He was very, very young when he graduated. And we used to always talk about, when he decided not to reclass him. And he, by the way, his daughter, he started her school later. So completely different situation. Started his daughter later, and he's seen kind of the benefits with her. She's in high school now. She's at Rutgers Prep, soccer player. And, but anyway, so I asked him, I said, does your son or you regret you not reclassing? And he didn't get. He said, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to talk to him, but talk to my wife. He's a very smart guy. Like, kids at Johns Hopkins, for God's sake.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
And they're
smart.
And then I want to get on the phone and I want to talk to you. And I asked him, not just athletic. I said, I get athletically that he probably could have benefited, right?
Yep.
Because he was a stud, and if he had another year, he would have started for another full year because there was a guy ahead of him the year before. But all the other stuff, right? Socially, intellectually, emotionally. And he kind of went through all that stuff with me. And because I'm trying to figure out, my son is like his son, very young, but really does really well. And he said to me, really interesting thing. He said it worked out the way it should work out for his son. He said, if you were to ask me, because I talked to him, he said he's super happy at Johns Hopkins. He was playing right away as a freshman. Yeah. He's a very smart kid, doing well school-wise, all that kind of stuff. He said, but if you were to say, if I were to go back in time and should I have reclassed him from a standpoint that he might have had more advantages athletically? He said, not intellectually. He's like, emotionally, I'm not sure. He seems to be fine. Like his kid is a kind of a great kid, by the way, like a quieter kind of person. You know what I mean? So he said he seems to be fine. Not that he said he wouldn't tell me anyway if he was or wasn't.
Right.
So, and he said socially he's obviously fine at whatever age he was. So he didn't have a problem from that standpoint. But he said if you were to say, okay, you know what, for him it worked out great. It ended up working out great. So if you were to say him not reclassing as an antidote, it worked out. He didn't reclass, worked out great for him. He said if you were asking me if I could go back in time, would I have done it if I would go back? He said I probably would have had him reclass.
Yeah.
But not that it would have made him could he have gone to a higher level? Maybe could have gone to a higher level.
Yeah.
But his situation is fantastic. So not that his situation would have been any better, but as far as from it
would have been different. Yeah.
It would have been different.
And he's younger for his grade, so he could have fell into that other class without looking like, oh my gosh, like why are you holding the kid back? He's going to be a 19-year-old senior. No, he would have been like an 18-year-old senior.
Kid.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because that conversation, here's a kid that it did work out for.
Yep.
And we used to debate this all the time. And I was curious his opinion, and I think that your point and Derek's point are really important about like you gotta I could tell you what my situation was, which is what was great. He didn't tell me what I should do with my kid. Right. He said, here's what I thought was good, and this is my situation. And by the way, because he was on our club team at 7-on-7, like he was a very controlling kind of guy. So like, I think that was probably hard for him that he didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because he would control a lot of the aspects of what his kid was doing. but it worked out really well. And so I think your point about like you can tell someone the situation that you know, but ultimately they got to make their own decision. And there really is no right or wrong answer. So that's why, but what I do think is the most important thing is what you talked about is when you're why you're so intense with the youth kids is because you want them to get the standards right and to be able to get good habits.
Yeah.
And I think that translates with them into anything they do, no matter what the situation is, because if they don't do that, it's not going to work out for them in anything they do because they're not having good habits. And learning those will put them far ahead of other kids who come in with maybe not as good habits, because now the coach goes and looks at them and say, wow, that kid's a hard worker. And Derek, you brought up a great point, because I've heard my son say this, and I don't know if Coach, you've heard your son has ever said it when you weren't coach. So like, kids, my son plays on, he goes to Catholic school, and they have a 5th, 6th grade team for basketball. They have to make, and he's on it, but he's a 5th grader. And sometimes the kids are like, when they're doing sprints, and he's all, I've always told him, you got to go all out. Like, I don't care how you're feeling. Like, I don't care if you're like, I don't care if I agree or disagree with how their training methods are. You go all out, right? Because the coaches will notice that. And so he goes all out. But some of the 6th graders like say to him, like, dude, why are you going all out? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, right? Like, and he, kids come home and then, by the way, their team is a good team. So this is not a bad team or anything. This is a very good team to begin with. So it strikes me as I just tell them, you're never going to do that next year when the 5th grader and the 5th grader's outrunning you or whatever. You ain't doing it. Like, you tell them, hey, good job. Like, I got to run faster, So, but it happens. You know what I mean? So that's my point on the habits part, because that's all part of it. Like I'll stop kids on my youth football team that I coach them in youth football.
Yeah.
And when I see a kid, like you could see it, right? A kid's going on that kid, and I pull them all in, and I'm like, no, we don't do that on our team. We're all one unit. We're trying to help each other. Not that kids don't go do it again the next day, because
or do it in school or whatever it may be. But still, if it's in your control, you control it.
You keep doing that, because that is a thing that goes on. And kids at young ages, when coaches don't correct that stuff, or sometimes coaches don't know what's going on, right?
Because they're unaware.
I'm a hyper-aware person, probably too hyper-aware, but like, that like those things always bother me, because from being a high school coach, you're really hyper-aware. Like, you're always aware. Like, somebody bullying a kid, like, you're hyper-aware of that stuff.
Well, you've been conditioned that way because
the
repercussions that come from it. The repercussions that come from the top down. Like, that's just kind of what it is.
Talk about, I would love for you to talk about your experiences, like with your son, because you talked about, should you do national, should you not do national? Like, what kind of goes through like your thought process with your son and their teams, and how you kind of continue to navigate it, because you were an excellent athlete yourself, and you probably look at it and you know what, like he could be really good. Like, like especially in lacrosse, for example, like, I know there are big guys in lacrosse and there are height guys, tall guys and stuff, but you could be very athletic and quick and shifty, you don't have to be a huge guy, right? Like, so there's a place for those guys. So what are you thinking, like, when you see these things in football and lacrosse and stuff, like, how do you kind of go through your process?
Yeah, and again, I go off my experiences too, like me being a smaller guy. Football was my favorite. Basketball, I had the most fun. The lacrosse I was best at because of my quickness and my size. So I knew if I wanted to play in college and wanted to keep doing this, that lacrosse was going to be my avenue. And I do feel the same for my son, but I don't want to have that conversation with him. I want him to navigate it, and I'm just going to keep giving him all the avenues and the experiences that I can. But I'm doing the same for his friends, because I know his friends' parents feel the same way. And, and obviously his friends' parents have all come from different backgrounds and different experiences. But like, now that they're all in my small town that I grew up in, like, I'm going to give them the best possible small town experience I can. And that's the feedback I've got, which is good. But I'm going to also, anything I'm going to do with my son, I'm still going to throw it out to other parents, right? Like, this is the opportunities, this is that. Right. And then, have them make decisions as they go on. But yeah, the challenge is, what will it be like maybe 2 years from now? Like, 7th grade and 8th grade are such a different experience, and
it's crazy.
Social media becomes bigger, and those rankings come out of nowhere when you don't even know where these people are coming from, and that's all it takes is one kid to get a ranking and one kid to do this, and it does make it a challenge. But I just keep telling myself that I'm going to keep doing the best I can for what I know that has worked and hasn't worked, and just keep trying to navigate through, seeing how the kids are reacting to drills we do, seeing how kids react to what we did prior in a different practice, and just, try to self-reflect more. And I think we grew up in a time where coaches were so like raw in your face and go, and it worked, and it helped shape who we are today. And I try to find a balance in that when I'm coaching. Like, I'm still holding them accountable. I'm still yelling in their face, and the parents love it. They don't care. Like, they know that I'm doing it for their own good, and they know that I love their kids. But at the same time, I'm trying to be a little bit more present and like have conversations with a 10-year-old and like how they're feeling and the emotions they're going through. Or if I got on a kid about something, I might pull them aside after and I listen, you know why I got on you? Like, and they might not know, or if I explain it to them, they'll understand. But I also say, and I got this from a coach who coached me growing up, is if I'm not talking to you and I'm not yelling at you or I'm not holding you accountable, that's when you need to be worried. So like, I try my best to not forget the kids that I'm not getting on, because then they're not getting coached, So like, it's a lot. I mean, there's no doubt it's a lot, and you see it yourself, but I love every second of it. I'd be lying if I didn't sit here and say I didn't love it, because obviously we don't get paid to do it. And
right.
Selfishly, I get to spend more time with my kids. So I'm not going to be an ignorant dad who doesn't sit here and say, well, I'm still doing it for my kids, but I'm doing it for my kids because they're also playing with their friends. So I want their friends to be good, so my son has a great experience.
Right.
So, that is the tough navigation of it. And you know what? My son is going to get coached the hardest, and parents see it. Sometimes parents will tell my wife, like, is he ever going to stop yelling at his son? And she's like, no, because that's the only way he knows. And my dad was the same way. And it just, it's just, if I'm going to coach him hard one way and say somebody else coaches him one day, no one's going to be on him as hard as I was. And if they are, then he's ready for it. But I'll do it to the other kids. And that's what I try to tell my son, is that sometimes, he's getting older and he's communicating better with me. He's just like, well, you didn't yell at so-and-so when they did this. And I said, you know what? You're right. So like in my head, I'm like, all right, so if a kid messed up on it, I'm going to ream him out for it and let him know that, you did something wrong too. And I'm going to treat you the same way. And I think it's helped. I think the kids are kind of seeing it. And obviously it's helped my son because he's not getting verbally abused every second. But it's, it is an amazing.
We all been there.
Yeah, I know. It's I've gotten better. My wife.
It is hard because you especially when you're coaching your own son's team. So because you already know that the parents, it doesn't matter how good an athlete your son is, they when they're talking among each other, the only reason this and this is because he's coaching them, right?
Yep.
So because of that, I think it's important. I feel like, for me at least, it's important that my son understands that everybody's held to the highest standard, but you're not going to be able to get away with anything.
Zero tolerance for you.
It's not going to happen. And if you feel like that doesn't work for you, then I will no longer coach. Okay. But I can tell you that me coaching your team is helping the other kids as much, or if not more, than it's helping you. So if you tell me I shouldn't coach anymore, I won't coach. But the other kids on the team who are benefiting from having someone with a lot of experience will also lose out on that as well. So I mean, my son's always been pretty good with that, but it is hard for your kids. It is hard when you ride them and you're the dad, and like, they want you to give them a hug.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're right. You're like, and they're thinking in their head, why does dad want to hug me? And you're like, I'm like, no, we're on the field. Like, we're not hugging right now. We can hug when we go home, So that is the part that gets confused for kids, coach and dad. And that is difficult for kids. But I do think, it sounds like you have a great way of handling it. I think, as long as you talk to you always talk to your son on, hey, this is why I'm doing it, which they won't really, none of them will really understand it until they become an adult anyway. So like, that's the other thing. It's like, it's just like the kids you coach, right? Like kids you coach in high school, when they're 26 years old or 30 years old, they're like, coach, I really didn't understand
I still get it.
Yep. And now I do understand it because this, and this is going on. And I thought back to like what you said or how you handle it. And that's what I use to kind of help me propel forward. And it's not until they get older, no matter what. So it's a very rare kid that understands it early. Like every once in a while you get a kid that does, but it's the very rare kids. And I always tell the kids too this. I said, listen, you're definitely not going to understand my sense of humor until you become an adult.
Right.
You're like, but you always have the white kid on your team that does understand your sense of humor, and they're like, and it's definitely usually not my own kid, you know. So I'm like, that kid, I really like that kid. He understands.
Oh yeah, he gets me. He gets me.
He actually gets me, even though he's not my my kid.
He makes it worthwhile when I'm going in my crazy rants and stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's always great with that kid, like that kid. There's always one on your team that like,
always.
Wow, that kid actually understands where I'm coming from. It's amazing. But yeah, any kind of like, I mean, I think what you're doing is phenomenal. We didn't talk a ton about the high school stuff, so I'd love for you before and Derek, any other questions you might have, but what have you seen as far as benefit wise in the continuity from and Boonton's, one of the great places from this standpoint, from the kids that are coming through the youth programs, whether it's club or recreation, to you guys that has really helped in your program, in lacrosse and the other and football that you coach. Like, what have you found from that standpoint?
Say that again. What have we found? Like, what has helped in the continuity?
Right?
Yeah.
So kids that have come through from like the time they're young, coming up to you guys that in high school.
I think that the biggest thing is they had so much fun playing together growing up that they wanted to continue to do it at the high school level. So like, I think there have been experiences where we've lost kids, like you just lose kids in the shuffle, but the kids that we didn't lose in the shuffle that stayed and grinded it out, it's because they had so much fun being with their friends. So like one thing that we've been doing at our banquets, football and lacrosse, is that like at the end of the banquet, we let the seniors or captains come up and speak about they'll speak about the coaches, but they'll speak about their experience real quick. And the past couple of years, they've just been getting better and better every year, because I think the kids that are sitting in the group watching the seniors speak, they're like, oh, when I get up there, I know what I want to say. And more often than not, the most common thing I get is that I'm so happy I continued to play with my friends for 4 years, or you get a kid that didn't play his freshman or sophomore year and came back. Like we just had two kids who are going to be graduating this year. These two wrestlers that were stud wrestlers growing up, came to Boonton. I think they played freshman year, didn't play sophomore year, but then came back when my brother took over. And the first thing they said to my brother after the last game of the season was like, Coach, I'm so happy I came back. Like, this was so much fun. You can't replicate that football experience and blah, blah, blah. And, I love wrestling and it's a part of me forever. But they're like, if I didn't have this experience, I don't know if I'd be who I am today type experiences. So like, that's the part that I'm noticing that, you get in the small towns, and obviously I don't have that big town experience. Montville's a big town, so I have some coaching experience there, but same even at a bigger school. They all say that they just love being able to play a sport that they love with their friends. And, we all know that not all these kids are going to play at the next level. So to hear them say that, man, I stuck it out. I did the summer workouts. I did the club sports. Then my parents drove me all over the country and spent all this money on me, but it was worth it because I got to play with my friends for a couple years. And then we know, like, look where we are today, that because of sports and who we are today, we get to have these conversations and these experiences. So I would say that's the most positive experience I've gotten being not just at Boonton and it being a small school, but watching these kids come up through the youth that I've heard of that maybe I didn't have a hand in, but I've just heard of them. And then when they come and play together, like you just see how hard they work for one another. And, for me as an athlete, it was all about winning and losing. And then early on in my coaching career, it's all about winning and losing. And then now that I guess since I have my own kids, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, both of you, is just that it's not that it's not all about winning and losing, but my gosh, like I'm hearing these kids talk about their experiences and then I reflect on mine. And yes, I'll always remember the state championship, but that won't be the greatest experience. It'll be the time I spent with my friends after the game or the bus rides and all that stuff. So like, I'm starting to appreciate this whole ride a little bit more as I'm getting older and being around these kids today that are way different than us. And
so different.
We talk about it all the time. They're better and worse in so many ways, but I think the way they're better is that I think they're a little more self-aware of how great these experiences are. Where we're sitting here talking about our glory days where they're talking about it now. Like these kids are talking about how cool it's been. I got to do this with my friends. Where for us, we were just such blockheads and we're like, yeah, this is awesome. This is great. I'm going to go play in college and, I'll be a dad one day and do this too. But like, no, it's now these kids are really understanding like how cool this ride is. And that's why I said, like, when people ask me, it's like, yeah, just keep playing. This is great. Like, and there's nothing wrong with specializing. I'll never knock that experience because kids are still getting amazing experiences, but yeah, just keep playing and keep playing other sports and just keep building relationships because you never know who you'll latch onto, whether it's a kid or a coach that's going to help you succeed in some other way, whether it's on the field or off the field. So, the continuity has been really cool to watch as an outsider.
That's a great finish and a great point. It's the they're going to be done either at 18, 22. 18 or 22, and
the ball goes flat for all of us at some point.
Yeah, right. So enjoy the hard work, like what seems hard in the moment, and it isn't. It's and
it's for parents too.
Although I will say though, when they did 3 days when I was at UConn back in the 90s. Which was, I don't know if the coach thought he was Junction Boys or what. I did remember thinking a few times in my head, like, how much do I really like
I know. How much do I love this? Yeah.
Do I really love it that much that I'm going to completely torture myself? And I may not survive, but you do. But the thing is, you do survive. That's the thing. You do survive. And in today's world, obviously, with all the things like athletic trainers and all this, there's many more things that can help you to succeed, not just survive, but succeed and recover. And I can't believe that I can go on Temu or Amazon and get myself the Normatec, the knockoff Normatecs that recover your legs. Like, these things weren't available when I was around. I just jumped in a cold tub and hope for the best, So they got
garbage can with fucking water and ice. That's it. You just hop in.
Whatever you got to do.
That's exactly right. Well, Coach, it's been great having you on. Derek, I don't know if you had anything else.
No, I'm good, man. I appreciate it. Listen, we've been trying to get this done for a really long time, dude, and I get it. I'm just happy that we were able to carve out some time, dude.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Look,
I love what you
appreciate
guys do, man. I really do. I love what you guys do. I mean, I talk to Derek all the time. This is so cool. And I watched when you had my buddy Ian on, and we were talking after. We coach hoops together right now, so we're just like, dude, I love.
Schwinn's the man, dude.
He's the best, but I love what you guys do. This is just talking shop and just getting experiences, and hopefully some people can watch this and just hear some guys talk about their glory days and talk about their experiences with their kids now. And everybody's going through it, so we're all on that same hamster wheel, man. Just running 100%. Around.
It's like we reference it all the time about just, the network that's created and talking to guys across the country. I mean, all over in different, like you said, like we're all dealing with the same shit. It's just how it's how it's different where you are, or the obstacles that you're dealing with or whatever. But, you know, we're all in this together, and we all want the same things. We want the best for our programs, for our kids. We want everybody to be successful. And in doing so, and in talking to so many guys, maybe you pick up something that you may have never thought of, or maybe it's something, you know, like, hey, that could never work here, but maybe I have a buddy that might work for, or whatever that is. And that's, I think, the coolest thing about this, you know, talking to guys from all over and whatnot, and just dealing with their experiences and how they handle things and what they're dealing with. Because look, at the end of the day, like, we all need that extra level of like answer to a question that maybe we've never had before. And you know, you could take something away from everything that we do, or whoever we talk to. And, you know, like I said, that's the really the coolest part about this whole piece. But buddy, I appreciate you, man. Like, you know,
I think that's going to be one of my New Year's resolutions is besides taking care of myself a little better is you know, is just, you know, get back to networking a little more. Like, you know, and Dave, I know you understand this, you're so wrapped up in like your kids' life and their sports that like you forget to just talk shop with people that are going through the same thing. And you said it to your buddy whose kid goes to Hopkins. It's like, I got to just find ways to connect with people and be a little more present in other things that are going on in life that could help me in my professional career and my kids' career and stuff. Being so like, I'm just in one lane. It's crazy. And you do the same thing every day and you forget to just step back sometimes.
So, the rat race, buddy.
Yeah. As we're doing this, I'm soaking it all in, but like, damn, I got to be a little more present in the world and see what's going on.
You're like, wait. You're like, wait, there's the ball dropped last night, or like, you know,
I'm already planning practice. Like, what do we do at practice?
I mean, look, like there's a reason we're doing this today and not tomorrow. Like, you got a game at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So it is what it is. You're already in it, dude. Like that. Listen, that calendar, and God bless your wife, because she's awesome. She's unbelievable, dude. Like, I'm so happy you found that ride or die, because I mean, she's a hammer and she handles it. And especially when we get those that like aren't really sports, you know, they haven't lived that, but now they embrace it and they're all for it, and they use the, you know, attributes and tools that they have like in an outside of a sports world, and can now bring it to you and give you that different perspective of what it is. You know what I mean? Because I know, like, without my wife, like walking off the field, like after getting your ass kicked, and you just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different perspective of like, you know what I mean? So
I get the classic, hey, babe, it's just a game. Like, you're
right. And you're like, dude, like, you don't understand what I just put into this game. No, Yes. But they also understand that too. They're like, all right, like, hey, we're coming over here. Leave Dad alone. Give him his time. Yeah. No, listen, buddy. I appreciate it.
I've struggled with the same block at least 50 times, a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't change that.
No. Give my best to your old man, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Good luck. Great having you on, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
bud. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
See you, bud.
All right, that was great. That was a good first guest. Really good first guest to kick off the new year. And
he wears a lot of hats, bro.
You know, it's funny because by time, well, your daughter will be going through it fairly soon, but by time you're okay, so a few more years.
I mean, she's like halfway through 2, so like 2-3 years, I think she'll be in something. You know what I mean? Like, listen, and it's going to be a whole different like girl first, and then the boy. Like, it's going to be different.
The boy's harder in the sense that you're probably going to be more forgiving with your daughter.
Oh, so, God, yeah, dude.
You know, because she could probably put you putty in your hand. So,
buddy, she just gives you those eyes, and it's like, sure, we can have a piece of chocolate at 6 a.m. Like, Mom won't know.
So there you go. But with your son, you kind of put yourself in that a little bit, and that's what makes it a little bit different. But it's great to talk to other people that are going through it at the same time, that are
literally living it like just like you are, Dave. Like, kids are the same age.
He's got three.
And look, and his oldest son, he's pretty freaking good, dude. Like, he's really good at everything he does. Look, Mick was really good at what he does. Like, we were pretty much the same guy. He was faster, but like same person, you know, like that's, and we literally grew up. This is the part of sport that I absolutely love. It's my favorite thing. We grew up competing against each other all the way from second grade football, right? Middle school to like, or, like elementary school to then middle school football and middle school basketball, right? And then ultimately worked out where we saw each other in the playoffs in high school, right? Like, because we would have never played if we didn't see each other in the playoff. Like, just develop that really cool relationship of like mutual respect for each other, being the best players on the team, and then just continued that relationship all the way through college. And then we both get in the coaching world, and now look, like, we're doing camps with Montville, and he's on the other sideline, and you can go back. Like, that to me is just, and it's one of those things, like, for the kids now, like, they all have that, right? But most guys, when we played, like, you didn't know other players outside of your town until you got to a certain level, or somebody made you aware of it. I think that's, like, some coaches look down on that when guys have like buddies on another team or whatever, but dude, those handshakes before and after games, because these guys have either played together on a club team or they've competed against each other for years. The mutual respect of, like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to beat each other, but you also like embrace the success that other guys have because you're a part of their journey and competing against each other or with each other. Like, that I think is one of the coolest things that sports gives you that I don't think other things can really do.
My favorite thing about actually coaching and being involved in youth sports is everywhere I go, I see somebody I know.
100%. And I get my balls busted. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a game that we play where I don't know somebody on the other sideline that I've had some type of networking with. And these guys always bust. They're like, dude, you know somebody on every team we play. And you're not even, and you're like not even from here. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, how do you know him? How do you know him? And it's like, oh, well, I played against him, or we went to, like, we played together in college, or just like that world. Dude, that is why you play sports, like, to develop those relationships. And like, that's really cool. And look, you want to beat their ass, but at the same time, like, that mutual respect of like, I know what you did this week. I know it, you know what I mean? Like, how much work you put in, or how much, that's the really cool stuff to follow. And then to see everybody now with like kids, and how, like, oh, my son, this son, my daughter, this, like, that's cool too.
And it goes that way for all sports, because like,
it's across the board.
Like Tiger Woods has played golf forever. Like, he hangs out with these guys that used to compete against him all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, so it goes that way for any sport.
I love it.
Whether it's team or individual. Like, and I saw a bunch of things with him, and like like this guy plays with, he used to
beat his ass.
Right, and he still like
and he
that.
Still beats his ass. Still beats his ass. Like, with no back or whatever. He's still
right. With no back. He didn't have a
right.
back.
No Nike deal. I don't need Nike. Like, we're good. I got millions, gazillion dollars. Like, you know what I mean? I've been dragged through the mud and screwed every aspect of my life up. But look, I'm still Tiger Woods, so we're good. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And probably that camaraderie from your sport, the uniqueness of your own sport, right? So football,
absolutely.
Golf has a uniqueness, right? Those guys were on the road all the time.
All the time, dude. Like, who are you with?
Maybe they don't, hang out in the strip clubs as much, but like they all have similar experiences in the sense that I would guarantee that probably some of them, they may not have the extreme experiences, but they have some level of those experiences that go on the road all the time. And so that gives you stuff to talk about, just like when you play football, lacrosse, like it gives you something to talk about. And it's so funny. I love, even though my son probably will not play lacrosse outside of that, like, summer rec league. It's cool because when he comes out there, like, all the kids are like travel kids, and they're like, "Hey, Troy," they're like, "Yeah, it's great having you." And he's played, and they need him to be like, kind of, they have enough guys that can score 90 goals, even though he'd like to score goals too, but they have enough guys that can do it. He's a big guy, and he's a hammer. He's there to hammer, right? And they're like, we need you, hammer guys. And that's cool. Like, that's cool. If he was playing lacrosse all the time, then maybe he might get all those skills.
Absolutely.
Right? But he's still good enough athlete that he could do that, and he knows how to be physical with the kids. And it's great because we're there. I'm sitting in a lacrosse game, okay? And I'm learning it. I'm really learning it. So I'm watching it, and I see him get tossed out for like checking a guy that like I can't remember the rule, but like whatever it was illegal, right? And you know he has to go to penalty thing, right? And so the game's over, and I see the referee is right. So the referee, his daughter is in school, is friends with good friends, they're in class together, and I know him really well. And he goes, man, it was hard, but I had to throw Troy in that penalty box. He's smacking the kids with his stick, And I'm like, I thought it was so funny because that's what it is in sports. Like, I'm like, oh my God, you're the referee, Phil. It's because he was a lacrosse player at Rutgers. He played at Rutgers lacrosse. And so he loves lacrosse. Like, even though his kids play it and they're good at it, but he loves it. He was a Division I lacrosse player.
Right.
So he's like, well, if he ever really wants to take it seriously, like, I'll tell you what to do. I'm like, we're not there yet, but like, he'll play in this league, and and if he changes his mind, then that'll be different. But it's cool because that's what sports is. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I know the referee.
Know somebody everywhere, brother.
How to give you a penalty? Send you into the penalty box?
Done.
He's like, I can't believe he sent me into the penalty box. I'm like, well,
buddy, we had to get it done. Get used to it, buddy. Like, get used to it.
You have to play by the rules. But yeah, it's that is what's great about sports. And I'm excited for you when you do get that experience. And I guarantee we'll get on because I'll be at the end of mine probably at that point.
Well, you'll be in the high school to college world of like, okay, what's the next move for this? So
you'll be diving in. You'll be diving.
I'll be diving into it, and God knows where the world will be at that point with God knows what else. But I mean, am I getting a roadmap? Yeah, like, I'm gonna have a firsthand. Well, if you think about it, like, I've had a firsthand seat from the decision, with you and watching Troy of, all right, when does he start tackle, or we're gonna hold him back at tackle, or we're gonna put him in it, like, you know what I mean, or he's gonna try this and see what, like, you know what I mean. So I literally have this roadmap, but look, that's just a map.
Yeah, you might do like different.
There's 17 different ways to get to where it is. You know what I mean? Like, you just took this way.
What actor your kid is? Like, what do they?
No idea if they're even going to be in that. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell knows? Like, I'm gonna like I'll give a little nudge towards certain things. Well, when they start you at 3 years old down here,
you could start at 1. You could listen. I don't know if you're. I know. You could.
No, there's a soccer company
down here
that starts Soccer Shots is like 2 years old.
Soccer Shots, yep.
If I wanted, and we've obviously, like, my niece and nephew have been a part of it, but like, I looked at their journeys, right? And here you have, like, Colton, who's your age, and he now he's racing cars. Why? Because sports just weren't his avenue. But look, I'll tell you what, like, my man's on the Peloton 30 minutes a day for his racing shit. Like, oh yeah, dude, he's on this whole workout plan so he can, like, be a better race car driver. And it's like,
cool,
dude, it's amazing. It's wild.
Is he gonna be a NASCAR guy?
I don't know. I better freaking like start knowing my shit, because all the families are the pit crews. So I look, it's here we go. But I just like that he's found something.
Can you do? Have you been on his pit crew?
I've been like there. Now, I don't know, like, I can change a tire, but I'm not changing a tire in the middle of a race. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can sit there with his dad and be like, hey, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different world of anything. Same for my father. Same for, like, his dad too, because his dad was a football player, grew up in Madison. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is it's a learning experience, but they've been through a year of it, and now you kind of get into it. And it's just like anything else, dude. Like, there's training for it. There's stuff you can do with it. Like, the thing for him is it ties into his whole, like, love of, like, video games, like all these kids, because a lot of this stuff is like simulator stuff that he can do in the off season. So he's got his VR, and he's got, like, simulating the courses that he's dude, like the courses he's gonna race. Oh yeah, dude, it is a whole, like, and then he's got to learn how to, like, work on the car himself, right?
That's important for people to understand that whatever you decide that you are gonna focus on, okay, whether it's regular, like, sports that people understand, or car racing, or you're like a super, like, I watched a whole thing on these classical musicians.
Oh God,
they go through.
Oh,
and the fundamental theme is all of them. Okay, started when they're young. Now you need a balance. Is like you want your kid to enjoy yourself, but the fact that for them to become elite, there's probably very little. I'm not saying that you don't play other sports and all those kind of things, but I'm saying you do have to have a certain level of dedication to working on your craft if you want to have success, because there is a level. Now you might get to a certain point and you're not that good, right? That happens, and that's okay. But if you don't work hard, it's just never gonna happen. Anything you do, and that's the
100%.
hardest thing for that's the hardest thing for young kids to learn, and young parents to learn, because they either think they have to be like psycho about it, like go so far over the top, or they think, oh, it's too much, and it's really no, it's just a steady stream of hard work, right? It's a steady stream. I mean, I'm not saying you have to do 7 days a week, but let's say 5 out of 7. Like it's a steady stream of 5 out of 7 days a week, like giving work to what you want to be good at,
right?
whatever it is. There's no other way around it, and it's
No.
like it is a reality. So that's why I think honestly what Olsen's doing, obviously because he's famous, it's really important. I think he realizes it now because he started talking. He's filming everything now. He's doing all kinds of stuff. But like it is important for people to share their experiences. And it is also important to help people understand the hard work's important, and to combat a little bit of the world that's out there that tells you it's okay, just go have fun. Like
Absolutely.
Believe me, no one likes to have fun more than me or you. Like I Lord knows I've done plenty of fun in my time. Like probably so much fun for 10 lifetimes.
100%.
Without the understanding that you're willing to work hard, the fun to me, when you work really hard, when you go to your downtime and have fun or whatever you want to do outside of that, like you can enjoy it more because you know you did what is necessary. Like if I didn't work out and I decided to go out to a bar or something and I was playing, to me, I couldn't go out to that bar if I didn't work out and do what I was supposed to do. Like I couldn't go out and like I think it was very important because it gave me confidence that I did the things necessary that earned my enjoyment. And to jump just enjoyment for everything in society, I think is a bad precedent for younger kids to learn. I think it's important that you gotta, fun. Yes, you want to have fun as a kid. You should, if you really want to have fun, you should go find your neighbor and go play outside. Like that's really the best way to have fun. Because you can do whatever you want and nobody's going to bother you and nobody's going to complain about it because the parents aren't going to complain. But short of doing that, like if you don't do that, like you gotta earn things in life, and that's what's important. And it's unfortunate that kids don't go out and just grab a neighbor, and there are other things, because obviously there are crazy people in this world. I get it, and but it is one of the elements that has changed in society that I do think to myself for my own kids, like, oh, it stinks. Like he doesn't feel comfortable just going over and ringing somebody's bell and seeing if they're there, right? Like,
correct.
I wish that part I liked. Like my next door neighbor, even though I never wanted to play with her because she was a girl, okay, when I was a kid, her butt would be over there ringing the doorbell, seeing if I wanted to go outside every day.
At least she was consistent with it.
And sometimes I would go out, right? Or another, even because if I didn't have anything to do, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go outside.
Right. Might as well do something.
And because they have so many other distractions, that is not like
they could just sit inside and do whatever. You know what I mean?
Where you play games. You can play games, and the games replace that entertainment value, but you don't move. So like when people are like, wow, like, they play their sport all the time. Let's say a kid's not that coordinated, even though he plays all his sports all the time and he works out. Well, he would have gotten more than that if they were able to go and play outside every single day. Because if you think about it, if you're sprinting for 3 hours every single day, that is way more than you would do if you went to a gym, right? If you actually went outside like we used to do, like I biked to my friend's house, which was half a mile away. I would bike home. That's 2 workouts, right? Then you go and play football in the yard for an hour. Then we go play basketball against each other for another hour. Okay. Then we might go walk to the convenience store, and then we come back and we play tag. That's 2 bike workouts, 3 sport workouts every single day.
You were working out when you were having fun, and guys, they don't have that experience anymore.
They do not have that experience, and they won't. Even if your kid wants to do it, there comes a point where the other people around you don't do it, so there becomes no one to go to. There literally becomes no kid. This is a little bit of a damper, but there becomes very few kids that go and ring their doorbells because nobody goes and does it, right? And
100%.
I was lucky because my neighbor 3 doors down, he was 3 years older than Troy, and when he would come by, even though he was like in 3rd grade and Troy's in kindergarten, he would play. Then when Troy was the kid was a 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, all the way up to 7th grade, he would come by. But now he's an 8th grader. Now he's really like, almost an adult. Like he's going to hang out with his friends, which is understandable, right? He's going to hang out with his friends. But I always say to myself, I actually wish Charlie would just come by and ring the doorbell. You know what I mean? It was great because he would come ring the doorbell. They go outside, they would play. And but the kids, he's a high school. He's going to be a high school kid. He's an adult now, so or teenager. So he's going to have different interests. But I'll tell you this: every time I see that kid, he always says
hi. Yep.
Because he remembers that was fun. You know what I mean? Like he remembers.
Always going to have that link back.
He's always going to have that link back. He'd play right where we are in our little grassy patch, and they would play just for hours and hours. And they come in, they get a drink.
So cool.
Yeah, but now there's not as many, and like I say this to Troy, I'm like, oh man, I wish there was a kid that was close enough in the age group that was younger that he could go do that with, but there's just like nobody like within a 2 or 3 year range right around us. There's one that's like 4 years younger, but that's too big of a gap,
Correct.
So like,
but look, you find the ins and the outs and the niches, and he'll make it work, and he's made it work for now. So it's just. But
it brought me back to like when I was a kid, or when you were a kid. Those are the things that are cool.
Yeah, and look, a lot of it has to do like where you are, and just like neighborhoods, and like just things to do. There's so many other options now, and parents, with allowing to like just go and get in trouble and do those other things and figure that shit out on your own. Like, dude, like look, I always like the reference where guys now they're like, when's the last time you saw a kid like in a cast? Like we used to go to school and there'd be like 4 or 5 in your class of like, damn, I broke my wrist doing this, or just kids doing dumb shit. Like part of growing up, shit doesn't happen now because it's all about keeping everybody safe and all this other. God, you're gonna get scrapes, it's part of like growing up. But look, it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just new. It's just
no, it's not good.
It is what it is. So,
it's not. It's not any of it. Right. It's just
is what it is.
Great podcast.
Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year. We're not on tomorrow, right?
Nope, we're good for tomorrow. Monday morning, 10 a.m. Ashley Solfaconic, who was female basketball player at St. John Vianney. She went to Bucknell her freshman year, conference player of the year, and has since transferred to the University of Michigan and is now playing there. So be awesome to talk to her about that world of transition. So
absolutely, that would be great.
She's unbelievable. She's unbelievable.
Yeah, I believe it. She's got Michigan, so she's got to be damn good.
And she played for she played for Dawn, so we've had her.
Oh yeah, right. We had Dawn.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, we're covering the whole United States.
That's it, buddy. We're hitting it. All right, man. Enjoy the games today.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. Enjoy. I'll talk to you later. Bye.